I'm back today. Surprise! Here I am. I have my same orange sweater on. This is my favorite work sweater. I don't care if I get it dirty. I am back doing the decoupage today. One of the things when you're coming back, you want to try, like here, I know that this is going to be lighter. So, and I've got dark papers right now, so I'm going to try to sort of keep going back to the places that I wanted darker. There's different values in the paper, different values and colors. I mean, obviously you can see that. So I'm just going to work along here and let you watch how slobby I am. Because at this point, it doesn't really matter what I'm doing in terms of trying to be exact. I think that's the part of art. A lot of people, you know, you think there has to be some final result. I guess there does have to be a final result, but getting there is part of it. And I think people forget that. There's a struggle and a frustration that comes, it's part of the game. And you got to kind of stick with that a little bit, or you're going to drive yourself crazy. So here's, I didn't draw this in. Here's my purple crayon, like Harold. I got to put that in there. That's part of her. Some of this glue dried down here. Anyway, I'll get that later with a razor. All right, where am I? I'm going back through things and just seeing if anything needs some touch-ups. That's a little too big of a piece in this section. There is going to come a point in here where I need to do some scissors, but it's not yet. I'm not sure about this black background. I've thought about this earlier. I like the black. I might end up breaking it up a little bit. Now this is going to have to be rounded. And here are my scissors breaking down, cutting them down. Make sure there's glue in that corner. This is where the leg's coming down. Usually I don't like a whole lot of straight lines, but sometimes you just gotta do it. Now see this line coming down for the arm? That's gonna show me when I go to paint, I wanna sort of emphasize that that's the arm coming down. So that's why I'm leaving that at this point, if you're wondering why, and that is the reason why. I painted, that's actually black gesso in the back. So when gesso is really good if you, it can actually, I learned this years ago, but you can use gesso on the top of oil paint. It will actually stick. I usually put 2 coats if I, excuse me, if I've used a canvas and I haven't been real crazy about the way it's turning out, I'll let it dry completely and then use gesso on it to reuse the canvas. Sometimes it's one of the reasons I started doing decoupage too, is because I hate to throw things away like that. I can reuse it for things. And we got enough waste going on in the world. I don't need to be part of that. So this little sleeve, right here, I'm gonna work that. I said in the other video, if you watched yesterday's video, sometimes I break down and use scissors, and today's one of those days. I'm not going to like these straight edges, but that's okay because I'll go over it after. This little leg coming down. Again, you don't have to do that, but what happens, especially with something like this, because I'm using a relatively close paper color, you're going to get, what you're going to start to see is just kind of a blob. So that's why I like to separate those lines while I'm doing this section. So this was acrylic paint in the back, and I have kind of a general pattern of what I want now with I put some flowers in there, and while I'm letting that dry, There's some gold foil in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the background because oil paint takes quite a while to dry. And I have these marks here that I marked with the pastel, the oil pastel, but I've decided now that I'm going to kind of cover those. And what I don't want to make it a real even pattern here. So I'm going to try to make that a little, I think it makes it a little bit more interesting when you go through that, you know, so it's not a straight line that you follow there. I still got some glue here, so I'm just gonna kind of put those over. Now these are dried flowers. Okay, let me make sure you can see them. These are dried flowers, and this is gold leaf. And I just put those on with the decoupage glue, and this is all drying. And while that's drying, I'm gonna go back over here. I'm getting a better idea now. You can see the line that I put here in to begin with, but I'm changing it all now. So, and I've kind of put a little bit of green in here too. I'm mixing some Viridian green with some black because I want the background to be dark. And you know, originally when I started this piece, I wanted to put a face here, but I kind of like this minimalistic thing that's going on. I might do another piece and do it differently. But I'm kind of digging this. I don't know if I talked about, I'm kind of liking this very stark figure, maybe just a little bit of color in the head with a dark background. I think it's going to be a little bit more striking. Now you'll see here too, I've got a gap here and there's some gaps in here. I'm going to go back carefully now because before I was just doing it very quickly and kind of just putting paper down. But now I'm going to go back. I'm probably going to do an outline here of where the hairline comes in, and probably do something in black here to delineate lines in the hair. But right now I kind of want to just, since that hair is drying and I've got some time, you can see I'm covering paper here. I may just let a little bit of that pop through. And I don't really like this very even thing going on. So I think I'm going to go back through there. And I kind of like this paper coming through. It makes it a little bit more visually interesting. Now this up here, I kind of like that little leaf, that little thing that's going on there with the top of the leaf. I don't like that square edge, so I'm going to go over that. And I like this flower up here. I wanted that to pull in. Again, I don't really want an even line. I may end up using a smaller brush here. That's too small. I've got my favorite brushes in here that I'd like to kind of come back to, and this is one. So I wipe it off with my paper towel here. Now I need a little bit of a finer line, so I'm going to sort of twist my brush around there. And I like sort of thing happening here. Now I got some glue in there. I'm just gonna kind of wipe that off. So I'm just trying to find, going back to the big brush now, just trying to find definitive things that I want to keep. This glue, this is a little too crazy right here for me. I'm not sure I like that point. I'm not ready to kind of go in and define these lines yet. But one of the things I like to do when I'm working on the hair is kind of, and I do want to show one thing. If I don't like something with oil paint, I'm just going to wipe a little bit of that off. I'm not really crazy about that. So I'm just going to wipe that off, which is one of the reasons I constantly carry paper towels in my left hand. Oh, and I'm wearing gloves. These RNF pigment sticks that I use a lot, these things, you can buy these on Dick Blick or Amazon. These things are awesome. But I don't really want to touch oil paint all day, so that's why I wear gloves. So I'm just going to kind of go through here and define. I have the greens here, and then I've got the darker change. When I did this gesso in the back, I covered up the white canvas. And then after that, and again, the stuff, When I start to get into the oil paint, I'm defining it a little bit more. Kind of make this definition a little bit more. It kind of makes your line, to me, looks too harsh. It looks too defined. And I want it to be just a little bit more subtle. So I think I'm going to go back through there. Kind of like this. This is kind of poking out a little too much for me. So let's just cover that up. Let's say I cover that up. Yeah, I like that better. All right, so I have the background done, and I'm not going down and doing the whole background yet because I want to kind of get this area in a generalized sense of what I want. What's bothering me right now when I walk back from the easel is this line in the head. All right, so I've got just an outline of the background of what I want. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I've stopped right about here because what I want to do, I'm still letting this glue dry, but I want to define exactly the outline of what will be the hair. And now I've started to go in here and go over some of the decoupage. Now this stuff's already dried, right? Now, that's a little too dark for me. So what I'm going to do, again, one of the reasons I like to use the glossy decoupage glue, I'm going to wipe this off. So you'll see just a subtlety of color. And one of the things too, I like to make my black lines, which are the ones, you know, that I had with the gesso. I like to make those very sort of, just a little bit of, I got some color there. Now what I'm going to do is just what I just did. Now it would be a little darker over here, right? Where the shadow is. I'm not, right now, I'm not getting too worried about that. I want my little brush. So I want to start defining some lines. Like this one with the chin. And I'm not, this paper is a little loose. You probably can't see it, but I've got to go back, touch that stuff up. Okay, so this is not subtle yet. And I want to make it a little more subtle. So I'm just going to take my paper towel and I'm going to wash some of this down. I'm going to take some of it out so it's not so obvious. Now my lines are getting much. Usually what I'll do is I'm going to let this acrylic dry. There's a little bit of a definition here for features. But I don't know. I'll probably let it sit before I do anything and see how I like how it's going. This chin would have a little bit of lightness to it, maybe a little bit of reflection here. Now this is going to be lighter, right? So all of there's a lot of subtleties within that paper, you know, little marks that will come out. I'll probably leave some of those because I think it leaves it a little more interesting. So, but again, I mean, that's the thing when you're working through this, and what I would probably do if I ended up doing this face too dark, which it looks like I did, I'm going to let this dry completely and then go back over it. So, but I'm getting there. I kind of like this. I'm liking this a little bit lighter. And I took off a lot of that pink. That pink was a little too hot. Kind of like that, but what you don't want to do is get caught up in finality, which is that you have the answer to this thing now, because I do not, and I don't pretend to. I just want to have an idea. A lot of times you have to sit on this stuff. This is still too dark for me. I kind of like this very subtle, and it's too kind of yellowy. I don't want to define a face, at least not now. It's just a figure. There, that's better. I almost feel like she could be looking that way, or she could be looking straight at you. I'm not sure which way she's going to go yet. Maybe looking straight at you. Well, we'll leave that for now, and I'm probably going to end up coming back to that. Okay, so let's go back to where I was working over here. The difference, this is the paper that I have not painted yet, and this is the paper that I have. And you can see, you can still see subtleties in that. And I can take some of that out so you can see even more subtlety if I want to create sort of something else going on. So that's where I am with that, and I'll do another video tomorrow.